Good morning, everybody. Eddie here, Risk Management Lecturer of Think Education. As discussed before, and also as mentioned in the announcement, we are going to discuss the module 2, the second module of the subject. Okay, so let's have a look at our module 2. Again, I would recommend you to go through the learning materials and make sure that you have downloaded the relevant files that I announced some time ago. That includes your study guide, the assessment brief, assessment template, okay? And for assessment ones, I also have uploaded the advice and also presented in the webinar. Okay, this is again my favorite slide. I would strongly recommend you to download the files again, as mentioned before, and go through each module in the study guide according to the timeline. And that's a kind of benchmark I have mentioned in here. One module takes approximately 2 weeks. So if you take more than 2 weeks, then you need to align that back, okay? And in some instances, you may be able to complete that in 1 week. Okay, I think the reading is not that hefty. The reading of some modules are not that hefty. So I strongly believe that you can complete that faster than 2 weeks. And of course, attempt each assessment. And your assessment 1 is due in week 4. Assessment 2 is due in week 7, and after that we'll have assessment 3 in week 11. And contact me. I'm glad that some students have been in touch with me through email system mostly, which is fine, and happy to help you guys in any way I can. And feel free to send me an email. This is my email address, right? And for non-academic support, you can contact the Student Services Center. Okay, so how are you settling in? Hopefully, people have settled in pretty well by now, and that's what we expect. And I remember that in the first couple of weeks, I received a couple of messages. Hey, I need help with this. I need help with that. So hopefully we we settle in by now. Okay. Again, another checklist for you. Have you downloaded the relevant materials from the portal? Look, in my observation, I strongly believe that that all students in our class should be able to complete the subject successfully. It is probably about time management, because we have several commitments. Like anybody else, we have different commitments. So my strong recommendation for you is to map all commitments on your personal calendar, including the assessment due dates on your personal calendar. Okay. Again, if you encounter any problem, please get in touch with me. Okay. Okay, this is again the brief objective of the subjects. They are the objectives of the subject, which are basically the elements that you need to consider in your risk management framework. This is in line with what we have observed in the diagram that I presented in Module 1. All right, now. For this module, this is basically the a couple of learning goals of this module. Okay, understand the key concepts of risk identification and use the tools. Okay, use the tools to identify risks. Okay, let's have a look at it. There you go. That's another. This is another slide about the risk management process that shows the elements of Australia standard, New Zealand standard, ISO 31000:2009. Okay, so that's the one that we need to look at as well. And if you look at your assessment, if you refer to your assessment one, you need to demonstrate that you know these elements. Okay. Okay, let's summarize a little bit about Module 1. We discussed about the key concepts of risks, focusing on the establishing the context. We understand that risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. So the keywords are uncertainty, objectives. So they are the ones that we need to understand in terms of risks. Any organization, in fact, our family as an organization, as another type of organization, also has objective. So, and in terms of from risk management perspective, there may be uncertain events out there that affect our objective achievements. Okay, so they are the ones that we are looking at in risks management. And hi, Tanya, how are you? Can you hear me fine?
Hello.
Hi, I just mute my video because I'm afraid my internet connection may be, may not be that, fine. So yeah, we just summarize a little bit about Module 1, and I'm going to turn on my video. Let's see if I have problems with my internet. I'm going to switch my video off, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Module 1, we also discussed about why risk management and the organizational approach, sources of risk, which is the sources of risk are basically referring to what could happen in the organization. Okay, going back to our definition of risk management, we say that anything could happen to the organizations that affect the organizational achievements on objectives. That could be finance, that could be competitors, that could be WHS, if you like, that could be the security of our of the building, that could be our customers. So anything could be the sources of risk, and that could also be our employees, probably our key staff may resign by the time we are, we open this store or we acquire a business, and our key staff resigns by the time, and that could be risks as well. Okay. And we also discussed risk maturity in the previous module, the contexts, environmental forces, communication, consultation, which is quite critical, and scope. Now, scope in here should include the sources of risk, where risks could come from. Okay. Okay, so that's a bit of summary of module 1. Now, this week, this module, we will discuss the risk identification, which is actually the process of revealing the sources of risk, okay, where risks may come from, and also revealing the areas of impact, okay. What would be the impact if that risk event happens affecting our objective, okay. And definitely we also need to reveal the risk events themselves, okay. They are the events that that may stop us from achieving the objectives, okay, the causes and also potential impact or consequence. All right, this is basically types of risks that include the strategic risk, project risk, operational risk, financial risk, corporate governance risk. They could also be part of our scope because they are the sources of risks. Okay, the strategic risk, for instance, are probably our offering, the product that we offer, the service that we offer in the market is no longer does not meet the customer's need any longer. Okay, let's have a look at it. Now, this is the part of the strategic risks. Okay, the decisions in the strategic planning process okay, in the organization strategic planning process, we may have some risks involved. Okay, that could be about therefore, we need to think about the decisions on the risk appetite. Okay, what risks would the organization be prepared to take or not to take, which is about the risk appetite. Okay, so when we outline a strategy, okay, in our strategic planning process, okay, we may need to consider certain decisions that we make are quite, high in terms of risks. Okay, the risk of that decision may be quite high. So that goes back to the organization's assessment. Can we take it or not? If we can't take it, then we may not. We may want to skip that. Okay, we may want to cancel that initiative. Okay, so for argument's sake, for instance, you may recall a company named the Lehman Brothers. They collapsed a few years ago, so they filed bankruptcy. As a result of that event, 3,000 jobs were laid off because of that event. Okay, well, what did they do? Well, so they should file bankruptcy at a time. The thing that they did was they tried to expand their market share aggressively in property business in America. Unfortunately, they don't have the capacity to take the risks. Now, property business is always takes long time in terms of investments, right? And they don't have that capacity to do it. Okay, and that was the decision that they make. And here, from risk appetite perspective, we are assessing ourselves. Can we take it or not? Do we have the capacity to take that risk or not? Okay, so that's basically the risk appetite. We also need to identify the strategic risks and opportunities facing the organization and its ability to exploit or manage them. So when we outline our strategic plan, we need to look at, okay, where the risks may come from, okay, or opportunities may come from, right? From our environmental analysis, we should be able to outline, okay, these are the opportunities for us and these are the threats for us that may become risks as well, okay? And we need to think about how we can exploit them or manage them, okay? And lastly, we need to evaluate the existing organizational risk management processes and determine if any changes are needed in our process, okay? And the other type of risk is the project management, project risks. Look, all organizations will definitely perform project management activities, including our own organization, our family. For instance, when we say, "Yep, we want to go on holiday," the whole family members will come as well. So that's kind of project for us, which is probably quite fun. Okay, now from business perspective, from commercial perspective, when we perform, when we undertake project management, there may be a few things that affect the achievement of our project management objectives. Okay, and this will lead to the project failure. Okay, and the bullet points in here are basically the sources of project failure, the reasons why a project may fail. Okay, now you can also think about the assessment from that perspective. We acquired a new business, a new outlet. Okay, so we need to have a bit of rebranding issue in here. So what could be the sources of failure, if you like? Okay, so that basically comes back to our project risk. Okay, well, could be a lack of consultation with the clients that may affect the project failure. As a result, the project, the project does not meet the timeline because we are lacking of the consultation, or we estimate the project budget poorly. and the resource requirements were underestimated, so that when all costs come to us, the cost will, the cost will would explode if we compare to the budgets, for instance. Okay, let's say how that may happen. Well, when we acquire a business or new store or new cafe, we have outlined our budgets, estimated our budget, including training, for instance, for the new employees, including the rebranding, for instance, for the new employees, including redecorating the store, right, the new cafe, the new outlets. But our estimate may go wrong if we don't have the correct information. That's the reason why the budget that we have estimated may explode. So that's another example in relation to our assessment one. Operational risk could also is not a type of risk, which is basically largely dealing with the establishing the practices rather than the uncertainty associated with strategic and project risk. Now, this could be the lack of well-established processes and procedures in our operations. We may be lacking of process and procedure. Okay, what could go wrong? Well, it could be human error as well, or aside from process and procedure. For instance, if we don't have the WHS process and procedure, let's say if we go back to the acquisition of a new outlet, okay, or a new cafe, like our assessment one, we may, the new outlet that we purchased may not have the process of WHS or procedure of WHS, okay? They may not have got it, okay? And when someone tripped over in the store, we all shocked. Okay, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do here? Right? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? And people will, people may be shocked, and that kind of thing may affect the achievement of the organization's goal. Okay, a poorly trained workforce, another one. So we don't have the the process or the practice in the operation. Okay, so we need to standardize that, especially in the case of buying a new outlet. They may have a different set of training program, which may not be aligned to what we have standardized in our business. Okay, human error, lack of adequate resources, and poorly maintained or obsolete equipment and software. Okay, so now this is another one that we can also think of in terms of identifying risks of buying a new cafe. If we go back to assessment one, the equipment may be may need some more, upgrade, for instance, right? We don't know whether their equipment is good or not, their software is good or not. Yes, when we purchased that, we did the audit, but we have the opportunity to audit their equipment, the asset, and so on and so forth. But some of them may need to be replaced by a new one. Okay, otherwise we may not be able to deliver the service to the customers better. Okay, according to the standard of our organization. Okay, by the way, if you have any questions, Tanya, please put your hand up. Happy to, we'll stop and discuss that. Financial risk. Okay, this is another type of risk. Now, financial risk is, look, any organizational activities will pose some financial risks. Okay, it is not necessarily minimizing risks. It is also probably in the context of making a larger profits. Okay, here remember we define risk as the effect of uncertainty. Since it is uncertain, it may be positive, it may be negative, right? Based on the environment that we analyze. Okay, the favorable environmental forces will bring opportunities to us. Okay, so from financial risk perspective, that helps us increasing the value of the organization, right? So that we call them as opportunities. right? So for instance, if we say we want to launch new product, okay, it can be considered as opportunity risks, okay, because we address the opportunity from the environment. We say, yep, based on our analysis, the environment will give us this opportunity, right? Because no brands will satisfy these needs, okay? So we bring up new product to the market. Remember iPhone 7, for instance, they launched a new product, okay? And that is considered as taking risks at some point of time. And it is an opportunity for them, okay? Now, why do we still say it is risk? Well, if we don't do that, our competitors may outsmart us, okay? If we do that, if we launch this new product, for instance, we need to allocate resources. What about if the product fails? Remember Samsung Galaxy Note 7? You may have heard that the battery explodes for some reasons. So they need to, recall the products. They need to, practically speaking, if the product is has been removed from the market. Okay, that's also risk. Okay, and definitely costs that can be saved by reducing risks. That is basically managing the threats. Okay, remember after we analyze the external environment, yep, there are something that threatens our business, such as competitors, for instance. Okay, for argument's sake, we want to launch a new product, and we heard that competitors will do some actions as well. So we spend some costs in here to reduce the risk, to cushion the risk. Okay, so the competitors' activity in here are basically threats. So we spend the costs to help us reducing the impact of the risks. Okay. And definitely the resources that we need to manage both opportunities and threats. So that's part of the financial risks as well. Okay. Now, if you go back to your assessment one, there should always be financial risks in business activities like that. Okay. Think about what would be the costs that you need to spend to minimize risks. Okay, could be the cost of managing your competitors, or what could be the costs, and you could also consider that it is an opportunity for you to manage further. Okay, so that's some financial risks. And the next one is corporate governance risks, which is basically the system or process by which the organizations are directed and controlled. So it's about the how the organizations are managed, basically. So that's what we mean by corporate governance risks. Okay, the way it is managed, the way the organization is managed, basically can also pose some risks for us. Okay, it is also about the way the board the board members or senior managers control the organization's activities. Whether they take risks beyond to expand the business, they may take risks larger than the capacity of the organization, larger than the capability of the organization. Remember the Lehman Brothers example I gave you. Okay, so this also includes the legal and ethical aspect as well of managing the organization. Therefore, this risk management should also include the consideration of legal and ethical aspect. Okay? You may also recall another case like VW car, where they manipulate the emission report with the software that they inserted in the car until some engineers in America found it. They reveal, okay, guys, you're cheating. You mentioned that the emission is quite low, the carbon emission is quite low for your diesel engines, but unfortunately, we found you have inserted the software. So the software has manipulated the data, the carbon emission data. Okay, so that is actually reflecting how the board members and also the senior executives behave in managing the organization. That's another example as well. Okay, that's corporate governance risk, right? Some other scholars, in this instance, Project Management Institute, they are the organization who produced the PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge, suggests three types of risks that include hazard risk, control risk, and opportunity or speculative risks. Okay, hazard risk, definitely negative, right? If we say the risks that we analyze always result in negative outcomes, then we call them as hazard risks. Okay. Now the next one is control risk. This is uncertain, right? So we need to control that. Okay. It may be positive, it may be negative. Therefore, this should go under management of control. Okay. So, for instance, the uncertainty associated with the benefits that a project produces. Okay. If you launch a new product, it could be positive, it could be negative. Positive if it is successful, like iPhone 7, right? People just lined up in front of the store before on the day they launch it, right? At 2 a.m., I heard that at 2 a.m. People have been, waiting in front of the store. And I heard that in America, some people, even a few days before they open the store for the new product launch, for iPhone 7 launch, some people have been waiting in front of the store already. That's quite successful. What about if the case is the other way around, like Samsung Galaxy Note 7, for instance, which is a failure? Okay, so yeah, that's an example in terms of control risk, which is basically uncertain. Okay, the next one is basic opportunity or speculative risks. Okay. Speculative risk is basically taking, taking that risk as an opportunity, which are basically the relationship between risk and return. Okay, all right. So that's some classifications of risk, and you can refer to any of them in your for your assessment one as well. The next one is risk identification tools. Okay, there are a number of tools that scholars, risk management practitioners have developed. Okay, it could be lessons learned. So lessons learned basically referring to the project, the similar project. If you haven't done this project, we learn from the previous project. Okay, what was the experience? Okay, this one works, this one doesn't work. So we could identify risks from there. Okay. Checklists, diagramming techniques, brainstorming, Delphi technique, and also your SWOT analysis can also help us identifying risks. Okay, now we're going to discuss some of them next few slides. This one here is checklist technique. Okay, with checklist technique, we actually list down. Okay, list down where are risks likely to come from, who is likely to pose the risk, how large are the risks, which is basically a question about the possible impact or possible consequence. What situations are actually happening to increase the likelihood of the risk? Okay, so these are basically the driving force, the driving forces that improve the likelihood, that increase the likelihood of the risk. Okay, you can also use this technique to help you addressing the identifying risks for your assessment. Yep, the context is we purchase a new outlet, a new cafe. Okay. Where are risks? Where are the risks likely to come from? Okay, who are likely? Who is likely to pose the risk? Now think about the cafe. Okay, you have the chef, you have the waitress, you have the purchasing department, you have from external perspective, you have the the council. Okay, you have the suppliers and so on and so forth. So think about them. What can they deliver in terms of from a risk perspective? Okay, what may happen to them so that they can get the risks? Okay. All right, now from checklist perspective, there are some areas that we also want to look at. We can also list down the risk from legislative perspective. See, your council, for instance, they may come to you, hey, you are now, I know that you are under new management, the store is now under new management. Let me check your WHS, whether you have complied with the WHS legislation or not. Okay, let me check whether you have cockroaches, for instance, in your new cafe. For instance, let me audit that. Okay, let me check whether you have, whatever. Okay, whether you have waste management system or the appropriate waste management system, so you can, it is well managed. Okay, environmental, like your competitors, for instance, economic, financial, people elements, your own people, okay, could also pose some threats, pose some risks in this instance. Okay, you acquire a business, you have the chef, you have the barista, for instance. They may resign, they may not like you. Okay. Yes, we are now under new management. Hi, I'm here. My name is Eddie, for instance, and I'm from the head office. I'm here to work with you. And some people may put the hand up. Sorry, I'm Lisa. I left the business. Okay, that may happen. Okay, the process, the management issues as well. Okay, so there are some areas that you want to look at in terms of identifying risks. Okay. And there's a guy named Ishikawa. Some people argue that Ishikawa was not the creator of fishbone diagram or cause and effect diagram. Some other people argue that he popularized it, but some other people also say he created that one. Okay, but anyway, the diagram is also labeled as Ishikawa diagram or fishbone diagram or cause and effect diagram. Now, this diagram is an interesting one. Okay, they basically help us understand the root cause of an event. Okay, the root cause that we analyze of an event actually helps us understanding the risks from risk management perspective. Okay, and we normally group the causes in these areas, the 6 M's. Okay, manpower, methods, machines, materials, measurements, and mother nature or environment. Okay, let's have a look at an example. Okay, we normally start with effect. Okay, with this diagram, we start with the effect. Okay, what effect? Okay, this is the problem. Okay, let's say, what is our problem? Well, we don't meet sales target. Okay, our objective when we bought this cafe is to increase sales or to achieve X $1 million sales by the end of 2017. Okay, for instance, that's the problem. Is we can't achieve sales. We can't achieve our sales target. Now that's a problem that is not risk, by the way. Let's trace back to causes, right? The possible causes, the possible root causes in this instance. Look at from the measurement perspective, look at from method perspective, look at from environment perspective, material, and so on and so forth. Look at the machine, for instance, look at manpower. From manpower perspective, well, we may not be able to achieve that because our key people, our key staff may resign, as discussed before. From machinery perspective, well, when we did the audit, before we purchased the outlet, the equipment looks fine, but apparently something may happen along the way. We may not audit that properly before purchase, right? So the equipments are outdated. So, for instance, our coffee machine doesn't work, so we can't deliver the nice coffee for our customers. Our customers may not be happy with that. Okay, from environment perspective or mother nature perspective. Our competitors may, when our competitors found, yes, we are the new management team in there, and they know we are stronger from capability perspective. They may do promotional activities like loyalty card or whatever that may affect the achievement of our objective. Okay, so that's the example. Okay, now this one here is another example. Let's say in the production perspective, we have this problem: wiring faults in the installation of the light enclosures. Okay, what may go wrong? So we trace back from this 6 M's perspective. People probably training not currently satisfied. Okay, so we may have problem with the training in here. Okay, so from process perspective, people may not follow. The process may not be followed by our team members, right? So that we have this problem as well. From equipment perspective, the tools may be outdated, as we discussed before. Okay, so that's hopefully this gives you an idea in terms of identifying risks. Flowchart is another technique, another diagram technique as well that helps us to understand this. Now, people from manufacturing environment love this as well. So flowcharts normally use symbols like this, like circles, ovals, that symbolize the start and end of the process. Rectangle shows it is still in the process. A parallelogram basically represents the input and output, and diamonds, which are basically conditional, whether it is yes or no or true false. Right? Now let's have a look at an example. Let's say this is a flowchart of a order processing. You could also consider another flowchart for your assessment. Okay, so order processing. Start here. We receive order via email. Copy and paste email data into database. Okay, do we need to ship them, or the customers come to our place to collect the order? Well, we need the shipment. No, we don't need the shipment. If you don't need the shipment, then that's it. That is the end of the process. Okay, see, this is conditional. Okay? Yes, we need to ship the product because the customers will come to our place to pick up the order. Then we have to follow this process again. Print invoice and UPS label. UPS is the courier. Send email to confirm shipping, assemble, package, and ship the product to the customers. Now, if you look at that, anything in here may go wrong. Receive order via email. The customers may say, hey, I've sent you the email, but probably to a different department, right? Probably to a different department in our organization, and that department doesn't recognize the email, so they delete that, so we don't receive it, okay? Copy and paste email to database. Well, someone may hack our database, right? That's another issue as well, okay? Shipment involved. Yes, we print invoice and UPS label. Okay, that's fine. We print them and we label. We use the UPS label. Okay. Well, in that instance, we may have problems with the labeling. Okay? Send email to confirm shipping. We may have issue as well from IT perspective. Okay. So that flow chart, this flow chart helps us actually to understand each of the steps in here may be at risk. And we, in managing these, we need to anticipate them. Okay? Brainstorming is another technique, and it is also one of my favorite techniques. Brainstorming is basically inviting people to come to a meeting or conference, if you like. These people are normally from different backgrounds, so why we need them from different backgrounds? Because we appreciate their expertise, right? And here in that session, we get them to explain their based on their expertise, helping us identifying risks. Okay, the key questions that we may ask the brainstorming session could be what, how, when, who, and why. Okay, what's the problem, guys? This is what we're trying to do. This is what we try to do. What could be the problem? Okay, how could the problem happen? When would it be? When would it happen? Who is in charge? Okay, who is who will pose that the problem and why? Okay, so with that we actually detail that. We could also put them into risk register table in our risk management. I'm not going to discuss this in more detail, but your assessment tool will include this risk register table. Okay, for our assessment 1, we only need to look at the risk identification, explain the risks. Okay, and we are going to discuss this in the next module. Okay. Assessment 1, I uploaded the presentation of assessment 1, and if you need help, let me know. I'm glad that some people have been in touch with me through email, and again, this is just to remind us about the assessment 1. There are 2 tasks. Task 1 has 5 parts. We need to address everything. Now, if you look at that, the first one is about Australia Standard, New Zealand Standard, ISO 31000-2009. That includes the purpose, the key elements, all right, and how that supports our risk management practice. Okay. The next one is identify and describe scope. So this is about the scope of the risk management, and then the key success factor or critical success factor and objectives. Now these 2 are related. Okay. If I were you, I would outline the objective first. Okay, and think about what are the stepping stones or the condition or the conditional factors that we need to achieve so that we can achieve the objectives. Okay, let's say if the objective is to increase sales by 10% by the end of the year, what are the critical success factors? Well, the critical success factors may include: we need to launch the new product on time, for instance. Okay, we need to get the raw materials arrive on time. What do you mean by on time? Well, 3rd of November, for instance. Okay, we need to receive them from by that day. If not, then we need to delay the new product launch. As a result, we can't achieve the sales increase target. Okay. We also need to get our promotion materials on time. What do you mean by on time? Well, it should be completed by week 4 November, for instance. If we delay until week 1 or whatever, we will promote the product late in the market, so that we can achieve the objective. Okay? And next one is stakeholders, right? You'll find a table on your assessment templates. You need to identify who the stakeholders are, what they do in this risk management process, their concerns, issues that they may raise. Okay? And 4 risks for the project. Now, these 4 risks, I would suggest that you link that back to the scope, right? Because the scope should include the sources of your risks. Okay? And the second task is, I suppose this one's easy. This is your email to the CEO. Your email is basically a brief snapshot on what you have analyzed. Of course, you need to do the greeting, dear, and after that, you open your email and you explain the highlights of your analysis, of your risk management analysis. Okay, so that's basically assessment 1 in a nutshell. Okay, don't get frustrated. We are all learners here, and get in touch. My recommendation for you is to go through module 2 and also start the assessment, which is due in week 4. So by the end of the week, attempt the tasks, and if you need help, contact me. Okay, and stay tuned for the next module. And yeah, good luck. By the way, any questions so far?
No, not really. Not yet.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll stop the recording. Okay, so it's not going to be long. And if you need some